Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. The ears are wide open. We get a chance today to hang with a gifted rhythmist and a multi-instrumentalist, Carl Cherry. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, my brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
You know, I want you to talk a little bit. We were talking off air about your dad. He had a big bag of music. I mean, classic show tunes, the Great American Songbook. Can you talk to the audience a little bit about how your palate grew because of your dad's musical taste?
Man, yeah, absolutely. My father had this incredible collection of music. So I grew up listening to Motown, bebop, 101 strings, Jackie Gleason Orchestra, you name it. I had 3 albums that I used to play a lot when I was a kid.
Let's hear them.
There's 3 of them. Frank Sinatra, Strangers in the Night, New York Philharmonic, Leonard Bernstein does Gershwin.
Wow.
And the Grand Canyon Suite. Andre Castellanos plays the Grand Canyon Suite.
What was hooking you rhythmically? What is it? Or
I can't even tell you. I just know as a kid, I used to have these big Goliath pencils, and I would stand on this footstool, and I would just direct, and you couldn't tell me anything sounded better than the Summer Winds, and I didn't know who Nelson Riddle was listening to that stuff. But man, as I got older, I paid attention to arrangement and orchestration, and I never wanted to just be a drummer for the sake of just being a drummer. I always wanted to be an arranger.
Well, do you feel like you are?
Drums.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're arranging up behind the kit?
I feel like that all the time. Yeah, I even tell my students that. It's not about the beat that you play. It's always about playing for the music, playing for the tune. If the tune requires you not to do much, then don't do much. If the tune requires you to be a little busy, then be a little busy. But be busy with some taste. Don't let chops be just for chops' sake.
Well, this is important because you grew up in the feel era. You mentioned Motown, and that's James Jamerson.
Yep.
Could you demonstrate for the audience a little bit about playing busy but with taste? Because today you get cats up there because they don't play 6 nights a week. Maybe, you had gigs at a time where you played 6 nights a week, for a month at a time.
Yeah, that's true.
So they got to get stuff out of their system. So they're playing all over the place. But okay, if you can demonstrate some tasty chops.
Well, let's say, okay.
So talk. So you're
something like that. You're playing.
They didn't strike me as so busy though.
Yeah, but see, you can get worse than that. BS.
Yeah, I did.
See, I wouldn't normally do that.
Sure.
But I had something happen to me. I feel like, for me.
Yeah.
I talked to my son about the lifeline, and along the lifeline there are things that happen to you that either they change you for the better or they change you for. And my musical lifeline, thankfully, has always been extremely positive. And there was a time where I didn't know anything other than chops. My drummers, my heroes, were guys that had a lot of facility around the set. Billy Cobham, Alphonse Mouzon, Lenny White. I mean, these guys just powerhouses, behind the set. And so
Right.
I tell my students, you pretty much are what you listen to. If you listen to a lot of different things and all that stuff pours into you, and eventually that stuff will just come out. It'll manifest its way, and that's uniquely you. And I feel like that's kind of happened. I'm a pretty busy drummer, but I started playing with Neon Prophet.
Which is a local band here.
Local band here in town.
Reggae band, you say? Or?
Reggae band, fantastic. They're still playing, and that band changed a lot of things for me, and definitely changed my approach to this instrument, because when I first started playing with that band, I just come off from playing with Brian Brownberg, and that's total hardcore jazz fusion.
Straight ahead, yep.
Just, and Brian would encourage chops. Brian's like faster, quicker, and along with groove too. But that was all about playing. Just breakneck speeds.
The tempos were out.
Tempo's just incredible. And every once in a while we would break it down and we would do something groovacious, but it wasn't until...
Any ballads?
Oh, we do. Oh, absolutely.
Or shuffle? A little shuffle?
Yeah, we do the shuffles. We would do shuffles and good stuff, but I tell you what, man,
right.
It wasn't until...
With
Neon Prophet, my first few gigs with them, I was all over the place, because in my mind, I was bringing the coolness of chops to reggae music, and just so full of myself. It's ridiculous, man. Yeah. I'm gonna bring the big change to reggae music.
Sure.
What really helped a lot in that regard was the fact that they were such students of the genre that they were playing, and specifically Jamie Cerrito. So
did they enlighten you in a nonverbal fashion, or did they say, "Carl, we don't need that"?
No, it was nonverbal. It was nonverbal.
Explain in a musical context how, because this is so important, because we hang on every word now in our society.
I laugh at this because I remember the moment it happened, and I didn't even own any reggae albums. I didn't own any albums at all. My first gig with them, I was driving up to Flagstaff. I was in the car with Dave Dean, Jamie Cerrito. They were explaining to me what the different grooves were. Here's a rocker's groove, here's a stepper's groove, here's a one-drop thing, blah, blah, blah. Get up, do the gig, doing my chops thing with those grooves, and Jamie asked me, he goes, "Do you even own any reggae albums?" Which is a great question for him to ask. Now, bear in mind, Jamie's a cat that, his background is jazz.
Right.
Woodstock, Bearsville. Probably didn't think I remember all that stuff, but I do.
I dig that. I dig. Bearsville.
But if you want to know anything about reggae music, that's the cat right there. And he was essentially the guy that was telling me everything I needed to know about the genre. So I started buying some reggae albums and so forth, and I started hearing just how intricate the rhythm sections actually work. It wasn't as simplistic as I thought it was. It's deceptively simple.
Could you talk about floating, because you're not necessarily a timekeeper in reggae, right?
Well, you are, but the thing is, you're not the sole timekeeper.
Exactly, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Everybody. I watched your interview the other day, and Amo was talking about the skank, and he was talking about the bubble. And all those things are different rhythmic components that make up, the reggae music. And it was one night, it was a Chicago bar, and I went from playing something really simple to just being okay with just doing this. So imagine God. There's the skate, and then our bubble is. Now, I would normally play stuff to compensate for all that stuff that was already happening. But that particular time, I could hear it. It's like I could hear it and I could see it differently.
Wow.
And I went, wait a minute, my piece is here. Both Jamie, David, and God rest his soul, Plato, they both turned around, they all looked at me and they did this. Yeah, that's it. And it all changed for me in that moment. All of a sudden, it wasn't so much about the chops.
Yeah.
It was about playing for the music and doing what was necessary for the music to flourish. It wasn't about Carl just doing what made Carl happy.
It affected you in all musical settings, like with
completely.
How would it look? How would it feel with Bromberg in a burning fusion setting now with the new education?
I would probably play a lot sparser.
Could you show?
Like instead of let's see. Probably emphasize, the primary more than everything else. Be more conscious of dynamics.
Oh yeah.
So
that was a gate. You're telling me with Cobham, Lenny White. You're talking about the fusion period. This is not when Billy was with Horace Silver.
No.
They weren't playing hard bop.
This is Mahavishnu Orchestra. This is Larry Coryell, 11th House. This is Lenny White, Return to Forever. This is Weather Report. This is all. I mean,
that's a pretty
high group
yeah.
that begat. All those groups. If you take Weather Report, you take Miles, Bitches Brew, you take Chick and Return to Forever, and I mean all those cats they're all connected somehow. And Zolno used to play with
Cannon.
Yeah, right. Cannonball used to play with.
George Duke. I mean,
they're all like all these insane, incredible musicians,
right?
And then when you get those super groups, you got Weather Report, then they started peeling off there, So Return to Forever, Stanley started doing his own thing, Al Di Meola started doing his own thing, and Lenny White started doing his own thing, and Chick Corea was already doing his own thing, but his own thing, and that was another seminal moment for me. I mean, the Electric Band. I remember where I was. I was on the road with Brian, and Chick Corea, the new Electric Band with Dave Weckl, John Patitucci. Shoot.
It wasn't Gad, was it?
No, it was Weckl. It was Dave Weckl.
Weckl, yeah.
Yeah, Dave Weckl, John Patitucci. Who's the guitar player? Was it? I'm drawing a blank on the guitar.
That's all right.
Player. But anyway, that was insane for me. I heard that. Well, this is incredible. I remember having this conversation with Brian. Brian, yeah, but it's not as cool as RTF. It's not as cool as Return to Forever. I said, no, I'm begging to differ because I feel like now the technology has changed, sounds are changing, drums. I mean, Dave Weckl's kit just sounded incredible, and so now I'm thinking, well, shoot, it's about time and sound. It's time and sound, because if it sounds great. Yeah.
It's timeless.
It is.
Carl, can you...
I'm getting excited now.
No. This is, and people we have people commenting. Keep the comments coming. Carl Cherry, mixing the old and new school. For the younger peeps out there, I was interviewing Buzzy Featon from the Butterfield Band, and he talked about, in a guitar sense, the guitar solo needs to have a beginning, middle, and end.
Yes.
Could you demonstrate in a solo a beginning, a middle, and an end? You don't need 5 climaxes, is what I'm trying to say.
No, you don't. And I think one of the best examples of a great solo is Joe Morello's solo in Take 5.
Do it.
I don't
do your own Cherry.
I don't know, but I love what he did. I love that it was okay. start here, you go there, and you come back. You know, yeah.
You know, I ran into to Nuts Peanut the other day at Hal Jackson's house, and he said that
I like that, brother.
he was playing at the church with you, but you were playing bass.
I play bass.
I mean, can you talk? I mean, when I listen to cats like Willie Banks and the Messengers, Bill Moss, and Peanut's just joined us here. Bill Moss and the Celestials. I'm hearing this really funky electric bass. I mean, the real sanctified gospel sound. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about your earliest experiences playing in the church on the trap set.
Right.
And that gospel groove somewhere between the spirituals, the blues, and the soul.
Well, you know, my gospel journey is a little bit different because I didn't actually get a chance to play what I would consider like gospel or urban gospel.
What do you consider? What is
church?
What is that?
You know,
what's that mainstream that you didn't consider yourself?
Well, I was more along the lines of CCM, you know, Christian contemporary, you know, which was not unlike, you know,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was simple, you know, and you were definitely playing for the music. You know, the urban gospel and the gospel chops, as it were. I never saw any of that as a church drummer.
Interesting.
Back in 1991 was when I got the call and decided to go into full-time ministry. And what an experience that was. And it took me out of the local scene for quite some time.
Wow.
Other than you know, doing some one-offs here and there, but you know, I was at a wonderful church. I had a staff, and I was in charge of all things creative. You know, from music. I had a wonderful brother named Richard Kroll who helped me with the vocal pieces of it, and then we started doing video stuff. But a lot of my musical introduction in the church was that way. It wasn't hardcore gospel. I didn't really experience that until like 5 years ago. I started working with a church called RCCG Glory Tabernacle, and that's about as gospel as you can get. And it was different. It was different for me.
How was it different?
Well, man, I got to use my thumb. You know what I mean? And I got to get funky. It was.
Can you show up? Can you demonstrate?
I wish I had my bass.
Oh, you're on your bass.
Yeah,
okay, that's right. Of course,
yeah. So.
It was like Wilton Felder kind of funk, like Chuck Rainey funk.
No, you know, well, yeah, I guess.
Because that's where when I hear the Willie Banks stuff, I hear Chuck Rainey. I know Chuck was listening to those records.
Yeah, I guess you could. And I was a Crusaders fan too.
Big. Dude.
Yeah. So
Sticks, man.
Yeah, right. Mr. Cooper, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I could definitely. Yeah. It's more along the lines of that. But playing with Josh has an amazing foot, you know, and he's just. It's one of the highlights of my week to play bass with that brother. I get to. Josh can tell you, man.
What's up with tell me about his foot, because there were cats back in the day, they called him Funky Foot. You know, I mean, they just
like Sugar Foot. You mean Josh just has a way. He's got a way of playing. He's got this. Actually, some of my students I actually teach what I call like a Josh Phil.
Yeah.
Like lots of triplets.
Yeah.
You know him. Just insane, and the way that he so artfully just drops it in. Yeah, man. And as a bass player who plays drums,
yeah,
it's fun to play, like to get meaty like that, and just you make that face, man. You know, that face is so funky. You know, like what's wrong with you? It's just yeah. It smells good. It's so, you know, and that's my experience now, gospel-wise. I mean, as a bass player, I get to dig in, but I also get to be expressive. That's my thing with the bass. This is the season of the bass for me these days. And I don't think it's ironic that most of my drum heroes are also bass players. And a lot of my bass heroes also play drums. You know, Jocko was a great drummer.
Interesting.
There's a brother by the name of Gergo Borlai. Guy's an insane drummer, but he's also an insane bass player. And nobody would know that. Chris Coleman, another serious drummer. An insane bass player. You know, so there's a connection there. I feel like there's a connection between. I know for me, I needed to be able to express myself melodically. If I had a set the size of a Terry Bozzio and I had cartage that could just take it everywhere I needed to go, yeah, I could definitely express myself melodically on a kit with hundreds of toms. And I'm sure there's ways you can do it with just 4.
Yeah.
But for me, I want to be able to make somebody cry. You know,
You want to touch their soul.
I want to touch, you know, and there's something extremely primal about rhythm. You know, we're all rhythmists, whether we know it or not.
I did.
Our bodies, everything about our bodies and what makes it work, it's all based on a rhythm. And when things are out of sync, that's when your body starts having problems. You know, I tell my students all the time, it's like, you know, the blood coursing through your veins, that's rhythm. It's rhythmic. You know, your heart beating, that's rhythmic. So we all have some type of rhythm. It's just figuring out how to channel that through our hands and our feet as a drummer or as a musician, period. You know, how to go about it.
Talking to Carl Cherry here on the Jake Feinberg Show. Can you help make the body dance for the audience out there right now? I mean, just get into a groove, you know, and make the body dance. Floor tom sounds. People are loving this. You know, listen, this is important because what is the most important thing? You have a couple dozen students now. Like, what are you trying to implore on them the most? Because let's face it, younger cats like my daughters have had digital beats crushed into their ears for 2 decades.
Right.
They need to know about space. You were talking about before, time and space. What are the most important things that you can convey or that you try to convey to your students, being that they don't have bandstand opportunities the way you used to in the 80s?
Well, you know, we're actually trying to change that. We're trying to. I work with a place right now that.
What's the name of it?
It's called Lessons and More, and John Bujak and Judith Bard. Beautiful people.
Wow.
Beautiful owners, and it's musicians creating a space for musicians, essentially, you know, and our idea was to, you know, we have a space that has a stage, and it'll allow us to be able to have our students be showcased, and they'll have that opportunity to get on the stage and connect with other students and learn that really important piece of what it means to be a total musician. But what I tell most of my students in terms of groove and just being honest.
What is that honesty on the bandstand? But you have to be honest with your compatriots on the band.
Yeah, you do. I mean, there's a technical component that is important for every beginning student, regardless of what instrument they're playing. I mean, they have to have some idea of how to play their instrument. That's obvious. But once they have the general understanding of what it takes to make a sound or a beat, and I encourage, listen now. You know, like. Don't limit your ear space to just one genre.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, yeah, I know jazz might be. I don't want to do jazz. No, but check this out. Let me show you why the thing you dig is so connected to the thing that you think you're not gonna like. You know, and what ends up happening is you go, oh, I had no idea that was from this and this was from that. I said, music. You know, it's cliche to say music is universal, but it is. I mean,
well, it's all music.
It's all music.
We don't allow the genre. We don't do genres on the Feinberg.
It's all music. You know, and you know, anything that elicits an emotional response. That's music. Let me rephrase it, because a lot of things can elicit an emotional response. But in regards to music, you know, if you're playing music and it's not pulling any emotions from you, then you're not playing music. You're just playing notes. And there's a huge difference. You know, there's a difference between a drummer who is more concerned about the beat that he's playing than he is about whether or not that beat he's playing is making the music sound like it should sound.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you know, I know that your mom lived in the same apartment building as Papa Joe. Can you just show the audience a little bit about? I just think also all I hear today is double bass drums pounding me in my face. Just wanted you to talk, if you could talk about feathering, playing ghost notes, and using rebound on the bass drum.
Well, I have an interesting circumstance when it comes to my feet these days. I have diabetes, and I have neuropathy in my feet.
Wow.
So.
Well, if it's not going to happen, then don't worry about it.
No. It happens. It just takes a little extra work. There's a lot of times where I'm playing, and all of a sudden now I won't feel my right foot. So if anybody's ever seen me play, every once in a while you'll see me look down towards the bass drum. And the reason why is because I'm making sure that my foot is still on the pedal.
Wow, you can't even feel it.
Because sometimes I can't feel that it's actually moved. And so I normally play with another pedal over here. Because when that happens, I'll just switch. And so I'll play bass drum lead with my left foot.
You can feel that one.
Yeah, this one is okay. And then when my right foot comes back, I just switch it back up and play over here. So what's happened as a result of that is I try and take all the experiences that happen to me and turn them into teaching moments for my kids and adults. So right now I have all of my students learning how to play left-hand lead.
Oh, beautiful.
You know, so and there's something to this too. This way, I mean, you know, this is kind of how we see drummers play like this all the time. But you know, what does this posture, you know, say to you, like in the moment? You know, this posture, and then what does this posture say to you?
Closed and open.
Right, exactly. You know, so as drummers, when we play, our natural is to play closed, like this. You know,
wow.
But when we do this,
I dig.
It's amazing how much of the set all of a sudden now opens up to you. So it doesn't surprise me that, you know, when I saw Billy Cobham play for the first time and actually got to sit with him for a while, why he was a component of the open style, because of his immense drum set, you know, he was able to, you know, get whatever he needed to pull out of his set, he could pull out of his set. You know, it wasn't like he had to come way over here with his hand in order to reach the gong tom over here. You know, he was just, bam, here it is. It's right here.
Right.
You know,
right.
He had a ride cymbal on his left-hand side. You know, had a ride cymbal on his right-hand side. He had hi-hats on both sides, you know.
If you get locked into playing one genre, do you get closed up?
You can, but here's what I find that's been happening. I get to play with a wonderful lady by the name of Connie Brannick and Little House of Funk. And I get to play drums with that particular unit. And a lot of times I exercise my left-hand openness with that group. And it's done wonders. It's just done, you know, it's gotten so much to the point now where this almost feels more natural for me to do than this.
Wow.
That was the hope. I wanted it to happen that way. And so now I teach all my kids that. So whatever they're learning on the right-hand lead, they're also learning left-hand lead as well. And eventually I'm going to change that to doing feet as well. You know, they need to be able to play the bass drum with their left foot and not just...
It was the four-way independence.
Yes,
Jim Chafin.
four-way independence, but like amped up like a notch or two. And the Blue Book is wonderful. I love that book. Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer. I still use it today. It's a great book. Absolutely.
Carl Cherry, before we wrap up here, you know, I want you to talk about, at this point, what are the biggest challenges musically that you still are pushing yourself with? I mean, you know, you make it look somewhat effortless, and that's really the sign of a master doing something complex and making it look easy. But what are you still, as we are still growing in our lives, what are you still pushing yourself with on the trap set? Is it from a entertainment perspective, leadership perspective, what is it?
Man, I'm pushing myself as a musician, and it's
as opposed to a craftsman, or what do you mean by that?
Well, here's what I mean by that. It's like because I play multiple instruments and I teach multiple instruments, I've got to be sharp on all the instruments that I teach. So my week can be interesting in terms of trying to find time to practice. You know,
or come in to see the Jake Feinberg. Come in. You're busy, man.
Yeah. You know, so right now, you know, if I've just said it's like the season of the bass for me. You know, so I'm in the processes of putting together like a small solo show, just me and the bass, and perhaps I'll probably have one of my partners come alongside with me, a brother by the name of Tyrone Williams on sax and keys and vocals. But I'm spending time, you know, just working on the fundamentals, man. You know, just getting the stuff underneath my fingers, you know, and I tell my students this too. You know, there's a difference between practicing and playing, but eventually you want to be able to meld those differences together. Here's what practice is. Practice is doing something, is trying to play something that you don't really know how to do well. Playing is just playing what you already know how to do. I played for the most part today. I didn't practice here today. I played today. But the beauty of practice is, man, can you turn that into playing? You know, can all of a sudden what you're practicing, you know, can I play, can I learn these chord forms on my sixth string and turn it into music as opposed to making it an exercise? Can the exercise all of a sudden sound like music? Can whatever new rhythm or whatever linear thing I'm trying to figure out, can I turn that into music? Piano-wise, you know, can I turn whatever exercise I'm doing into something that speaks to me musically? I just want to be a musician. I want to bring smiles. I want to change the world through music and my faith.
Well, you want to change your world and inspire people in your world.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Exactly.
So let's just finish out with an inspiring little jam. You know, put a smile on the people out there. You've been amazing, dude. We're just a monster musician, multi-instrumentalist. Carl Cherry. Here we go.
Thank you, sir.
Here we go.
Let's see.
Carl Cherry, I look forward to seeing you live in person, man.
Thank
Much
you.
love to you, man. Thank you for being part of the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you.